This is nationwide news on the network service of the NTA. Welcome. I am Nolin Ebel Ame. President Bola Tinubu communicates to the Senate seeking the confirmation of the appointments of the Chief of Defense Staff and Service Chiefs. President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, while reading the communication at the commencement of plenary Tuesday, notes that it is in line with the provisions of the Armed Forces Act. This is the first communication from President Tinubu to the 10th Senate, inaugurated on the 13th of June 2023. Meanwhile, in anticipation of a supplementary budget from the executive, the Senate has set up a committee on appropriation with Senator Adeola Olamilekon as chairman and Senator Mohammed Alindume, deputy chairman. The House of Representatives has asked the Central Bank of Nigeria to hold the implementation of its policy directing banks to obtain the social media handles of customers as part of Enhanced Customer Due Diligence (CDD). Regulations. This is followed a joint motion moved by Minority Leader of the House of Representatives, Kingsley Chinda. The House notes that as laudable as the CBN policy may appear, it would exclude many Nigerians, especially rural entrepreneurs, who are not on social media from formal banking and also exert pressure on the citizenry. The House mandated its Committee on Banking and Currency, when constituted, to investigate the matter within 3 weeks and report back for further legislative action. National Assembly correspondent Mitare Ikpeng reports that the Green Chamber at Tuesday's plenary also passed a resolution directing the National Universities Commission to suspend the implementation of increase in tuition fees by federal universities. The Executive Council of the ECOWAS Federation of Chamber of Mines congratulates President Bola Tinubu on his election as chairman of the Economic Community of West African States ECOWAS, saying it is well deserved and coming at a time when the West African sub-region needs experienced hands to address political and economic challenges in the region. In a statement signed by the Chamber's President, Sani Shehu, the body notes that it looks forward to working with President Bola Tinubu in his capacity as chairman of ECOWAS and President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, adding that they are confident that the cooperation will be instrumental in turning around the economic fortunes of the West African sub-region and the African continent by extension. The body also expresses confidence in the ability of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to turn around the economic fortunes of West African sub-region. The Council appeals for the formulation of uniform policies regarding mineral export within the sub-region to curb challenges of illegal mineral export affecting the economy of countries. Unleashing the power of gender equality, uplifting the voices of women and girls to unlock our world's infinite possibilities is the theme as the world commemorates this year's Population Day. Olushe Agabo, in this special report, examines the significance of the World Population Day and the relevance of this year's theme in the Nigerian context.
Population at 8 billion humans moving on the earth with limited resources. According to United Nations, approximately 83 million people are being added to the world population daily. In this regard, overpopulation remains a worry as it is linked with global warming, resource depletion, malnutrition, and possible spread of deadly disease.
When we conduct a census and have the data, it will advise political decisions. It will make us know how many people are educated, how many are women, how many are girls, how many are adolescents, how many are in the working age population, how many are educated, how many are employed or unemployed, what's the migration status, how many people live in the rural area, and how many people are in the urban cities. It will tell us will give us a lot of information that can advise development.
It is for this reason that the World Population Day draws attention of the public towards the need to curb overpopulation and work towards accuracy.
We are living in fear of population explosion. If we look at the population of Nigeria, and if we look at the placement in the world population, it is, if we say that Nigeria may be the 4th largest or 3rd largest population, that portends a lot of trouble and danger for us, because we are not sure whether we are prepared for the upsurge in that population. That becomes inevitable that the census should be allowed to hold, so that the figures we give government will assist in planning.
The 2023 World Population Day has as its theme Unleashing the Power of Gender Equality. Experts in the population subsector say Nigeria is committed to achieving gender equality and conducting a credible 2023 population and housing census for national planning and development. Ifoma Ojinta, NTA News.
Similarly, advancing gender equality to create a just, resilient and sustainable world has remained imperative in the development of any society. This is the thrust of this year's World Population Day, as it focuses on addressing these issues and chart a way forward. Lynn Leneke reports.
Statistics has shown that Nigeria is the 6th most populated nation in the world, with an estimated 216 million people. Women and girls constitute 49.7% of this population. Quality formal education for women and girls, as well as acquiring life-changing skills, remains key for this significant population to contribute meaningfully to the nation's developmental goals. The theme, Unleashing the Power of Gender Equality, is apt, as it seems to address the right of women and girls targeted at achieving the Sustainable Development Goals 5.
So there is need to give them equal rights. There is need to allow them to have access to all the basic infrastructure or social amenities. They should have equal access as their male counterpart to education, to health, and to housing. They need to, because that will sustain the population.
Stakeholders are advocating total inclusion of women and girls in mainstreaming gender policies to empower women. This, they said, is imperative for national growth and development.
I want to enjoin women to keep on fostering for that equality. That is very essential. And believe you me, I mean, you can look at what we have in the Senate and whatnot. Basically, I mean, you can see that women are actually underrepresented. And even in other areas and aspects of leadership in the country.
Addressing these challenges is also key to reducing poverty and strengthening family planning. In Lagos, Lynn Leneke, NTA News.
Joining me to speak more on these issues is the Director, Population Department, National Population, Margaret Edison. You are welcome to Nationwide, ma'am.
Thank you for having me here this afternoon.
All right. Now, what is the current population of Nigeria, and what steps is the government taking to manage the rapid population growth?
The current population of the National Population Commission, by projections, is 216 million. And one of the steps that the government is taking to manage our population is to put in place a national policy on population for sustainable development. So the policy provides the goals, provides the objective, provides the target, provides the means on how to manage our population. And the central to this is that women should go to school. It emphasizes female education. It emphasizes having access to family planning and spacing of birth. It emphasizes that women should be protected from harmful practices that impedes their future and their potential. The population policy, it's all embracing. It affects every facet of issues that must be addressed to make sure we manage our population.
All right, you touched on the aspect of family planning for women, and I still want to dwell on this. You know, how can family plan and contraceptives in managing population growth, how can women achieve this?
Family planning, as I have been engaging different platforms of conversation starting from last week, is that family planning is beyond contraception. Contraception is good, right? But family planning is a practice that starts from cradle to grave. From the day a child is born, whether male or female, planning the life and the family of that child begins. You plan for the child to go to school. You plan to ensure that child completes schooling. When the child comes out, it takes over the planning to decide when he or she should marry, particularly for the girl child. When she should marry, when would she start a procreation or reproduction, and how many children would she want to have. And when she takes this decision, then she looks for how to ensure that those decisions and desires are fulfilled. And one of the means is to practice family planning, to make choices of the contraceptive that is good for her, and also to enhance her spacing, her birth. So family planning is central, but much more central to managing a population is education, particularly education of the girl child.
All right, now looking at it beyond family planning and education of girl child, with the growing number of youth in Nigeria, what policies and programs are in place to ensure they are educated, employed and empowered to contribute positively to society?
Thank you for bringing up the 3 E's. So for them, the first of all is that they be educated. We know that going by the youth policy, the prevailing youth policy of Nigeria, is that the young people or the youth is below age 30. And that puts us as having a young population with 73% of us being below 30 years. So for us to ensure that they become meaningful citizens to us, the present and to the future, is that we educate them. So one of the policies that the government is doing, and we are also emphasizing, is that we ensure that all Nigerian children go to school and have at least a minimum of secondary school completion. Thereafter, if they cannot afford going to university, they could work and thereafter continue their education. Then when they come out of school, whether graduates or completing secondary school, they should be able to have access to decent jobs, employment, so that they can earn income. When people earn income, they become independent, they become empowered to take much more positive decisions about their lives. They begin to shape their life. You look at the income you earn, you decide, oh, if you are a female or a male, if I get married based on my current income, I will be able to afford 2 children. We don't have social security systems in Nigeria that can help us. So when we are educated, when we have jobs, education, and we are empowered through economically and socially, then we become meaningful citizens to our country, we contribute to development, and we will be able to manage our individual population at household level and the national population management.
All right, very well spoken. Thank you very much for your contribution on population, Margaret Edison.
Thank you very much for having us here. We're still continuing to celebrate the World Population Day. It's not a one-stop commemoration, but it's something that should reflect and guide our thoughts and our actions from day going forward. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much once again. All right, moving on, we shall be joining our Makudi Network Center where Susan is standing by with more on Nationwide. Hi, Susan.
The Benue State government is to step up collaboration with stakeholders in the agro-allied business to scale up production and value chain addition. Governor Hyacinth Alia made the pledge at the inaugural National Agricultural and Innovation Summit in Makudi, the state capital. Elias Itiav completes the report.
With the theme, promoting small-scale agricultural technologies to foster local economic development through innovative agribusiness solutions. The summit brought together stakeholders in the industry to exchange notes and new technologies in the sector. Governor Hyacinth Alia, while addressing participants, said, as the food basket of the nation, the state will continue to explore opportunities on providing small-scale farmers with useful knowledge and skills for optimal gains. He noted that agriculture as a form of business and as a source of creating employment opportunities must be given the necessary attention to surmount associated challenges in food production.
I find this summit very essential because its aims align perfectly with our government's goals as enshrined in our policy document, a strategic development plan for Greater Benue. Our administration acknowledges the need for all parties involved in Benue State agribusiness industry to work cooperatively to address all the challenges that they face.
Convener of the summit, Philadelis Onongo, said, empowering smallholder farmers will go a long way in reducing poverty, particularly among the youth, and by extension, reducing crime.
This summit brings technologies across Nigeria to smallholder farmers so that they can have finished products, processed products, and then it will help them in mechanization on the farm.
The governor also inspected items exhibited by various producers and manufacturers where he expressed satisfaction with the technologies and innovations by the participants. In Makudi, Elias Itiav, NTA News.
The task force on the suspension of mining activities in Taraba State has been inaugurated. Performing the ceremony in Jalingo, Secretary to the Government of the State, Gebon Timothy Kataps, said government cannot watch the ecosystem being destroyed by illegal mining. Bem Hanya reports.
The need to set up the task force on the suspension of mining activities in Taraba State follows a security report on the damage of illegal mining on the ecosystem. Secretary to the government of the state, Gebon Timothy Katab, said felling of African rosewood, popularly known as Madrid, is also prohibited in the state. He reaffirmed that the suspension of mining activities is total and urged the committee to ensure 100% compliance with the suspension, while assuring the committee of the provision of necessary logistics for it to function optimally. Mr. Katab said the committee can co-opt the press and health personnel as members. Chairman of the task force, Brigadier General Jeremiah Faransa Ali, retired, on behalf of his colleagues, thanked the state government for finding them worthy of the assignment, adding that they will carry it out diligently.
The task before us is a Quillian task. Taraba State belongs to all, and we must make Taraba State great. We can't do it alone. It's a collective responsibility.
Other members of the task force are Major Ishak Soje Mafindi, retired, as chairman, as well as personnel of the Nigerian Army, Police, Civil Defense Corps, and the Department of State Services. In Jalingo, Bem Hanya, NTA News.
And that's our package from Makudi, the nationwide.
Thank you for staying with us on Nationwide, and this is Abuja. Now to court proceedings. The Federal High Court in Abuja has adjourned to a later date a case filed by detained leader of the proscribed indigenous peoples of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu. Olabode Arewa reports that the defendant is seeking enforcement of his fundamental human rights under the law.
Prior to this time, Nnamdi Kanu had been on trial before Justice Binta Muritala Nyako of the Federal High Court Abuja for his alleged involvement in terrorism. During the course of his criminal trial, his defense team applied to another high court, seeking a declaration that the manner of the rendition of the plaintiff from Kenya, where he had been staying, was allegedly unjust and inhuman. The defense team thereafter approached the Court of Appeal Abuja, which held that the High Court did not have the jurisdiction to try Nnamdi Kanu, thereby dismissing the counts and discharging the appellants. The former Attorney General and Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami, SAN, issued a legal advice that Kanu was only discharged and not acquitted of the substantive charges against him. Kanu also filed a rights enforcement suit before another court, seeking monetary reliefs and compensation for his detention. At the resumed date for the hearing of the matter before the Federal High Court Abuja, the matter could not be heard due to the workload before the courts. Meanwhile, July 20 has been fixed for ruling by Justice Binta Nyako on Kanu's application seeking an order of mandamus for the Department of State Services to allow him access his medical team. In another development, one Ilya Yabo has been arraigned before the Federal High Court for impersonating as a customs officer and for allegedly duping 7 Nigerians of 8.9 million naira by falsely claiming to have cars for sale. The defendant pleaded not guilty to the offences. The court has adjourned the matter to July 21 for the commencement of trial and for hearing on his bail application. Olabode Arewa, NTA News.
In other news, the Federal Capital Territory Administration has expressed readiness to begin harmonization of revenue collection in the FCT. FCTA Permanent Secretary Olushade Adeshola, who stated this at a town hall meeting in Abuja, says it is with a view to wooing local and international investors and ensuring ease of doing business. Onozea Kubu tells us more.
Town hall meeting by the FCT Internal Revenue Service with the theme Harmonization Drive, Sharing Our Future Together, is to engage relevant stakeholders ahead of full implementation of the initiative in the FCT. FCTA Permanent Secretary Olushade Adeshola says this initiative will address cases of double taxations and reduce bureaucratic bottlenecks, as well as ensure equity and fairness in revenue collection in the FCT.
32 of the 30 states of the Federation have harmonized their revenue collection, and we cannot afford to remain a laggard and outcast. Hence, let me emphasize from the onset that all the revenues to be collected will go directly to the coffers of government to provide services for our people. The payment of revenues of government into private account is no longer in vogue. Do you agree with me? Thank you.
We can only develop if we can collect revenue, if we can have taxes, and then these taxes are paid, and then we can use those taxes to develop the FCT. And I'm proud to say that with proper harnessing of taxes, after Lagos will be the next.
Chairman of the FCT Internal Revenue Service, Haruna Abdullahi, explains that the harmonization drive is duly backed by extant laws and regulations, which will ensure transparency and accountability in the system.
The Federal Capital Territory Internal Revenue Service Act entrusts us, the FCT IRS, with the duty to collaborate with relevant stakeholders and agencies in harmonizing and improving our tax practices. This is aimed at optimizing our revenue generation efforts while ensuring simplicity, transparency, and accountability in all our systems.
Contributions from the area council chairman and other critical stakeholders signify willingness to implement the harmonization drive of revenue collection in the FCT. They, however, appeal that grey areas be addressed for seamless operation of the initiative. Onoze Yakubu, NTA News.
The developer of Trademore Estate, Lukbe, a satellite community in the Federal Capital Territory, says an engineering solution remains the best way out of the perennial flooding at the estate and adjoining communities, rather than the proposed demolition of some parts of the estate. This view was expressed in an exclusive interview with Abdullahi Ajia, who has been following developments since the flood incident occurred last month.
Trademore Housing Estate, built about 17 years ago through a private developer, was conceived to close the housing deficit in the country. Just recently, the estate was in the news after the June 23 flood incident that submerged houses. This has generated heated debate and blame game among stakeholders, including an impending demolition to some parts of the estate.
If you look at the Trademore itself from the road as you are approaching, you will notice that they are sitting on a floodplain.
This particular flood water that passes through Trademore, where exactly does it originate from? You must look at source. This is water coming from maybe, let's say, 60% of FCT, Abuja, passing through Trademore. If Trademore was built to block this water, who are supposed to suffer? The areas before Trademore has gone further, made a lot of effort. We have two excavators working, opening up, dredging, and the results are showing. I was just wondering, what if government had stepped in, just like we stepped up? We have all our necessary land documents. We've done recertification with ages. We don't have any contention with anybody concerning the land where Trademore is sitting on. They called for a revalidation, and we took our documents for a revalidation. They acknowledged the fact that they've received that document, and they responded that they're working on their process.
There have been several appeals for an amicable resolution without inflicting more pains on the already traumatized residents, especially of Phase 2. In Abuja, Abdullahi Ajia, NTA News.
Agatha will update us on INEC's post-2023 election review in Benin. Hello, Agatha. Good evening.
Thank you for joining us in Benin. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is reviewing its performance in the 2023 general elections for better output in future elections. Elizabeth Omoko reports that the post-election review meeting is being presided over by the resident electoral commissioner, Obo Ifanga, at the commission's headquarters in Benin.
The review will analyze the procedure for accreditation, access to information on INEC and its officials before and during election, as well as adequacy and effectiveness of public electment and voter education. Other issues include experiences of voters and party agents on election day, voters' turnout, conduct of security personnel and other political players, collation and declaration of results. This meeting, therefore, draws electoral officers from across the 18 local government areas of the state to brainstorm on critical ways to confronting the electoral system and how they can be better managed by the electoral umpire and other stakeholders.
There's this high level of distrust of systems and processes in the country. We need to do a lot to change that narrative. We also need to recognize that an election ends when the declaration of winner has been made. Ordinarily, that's the end of the election.
that the matter now goes to the tribunal should only happen when there is a good reason to go to the tribunal.
It's expedient for INEC to do this so that they know the pitfalls, areas they did well and areas that they didn't do well.
With the comprehensive review of the conduct of the 2023 general election in Edo, stakeholders believe that the Nigeria's electoral process will be improved and enhanced. In Benin, Elizabeth Kamako, NTA News.
Talking health now, there is a disease that is caused by a spore-forming bacterium. It is a zoonotic disease that mainly affects animals consumed by humans. It is called anthrax. Humans can become infected through contact with animals or by inhaling spores. Ivio Yahiri in this special report tells us all we need to know about this deadly disease and how to prevent contamination.
Domestic and wild animals can become infected when they breathe in or ingest spores in contaminated soil, plants, or water. These animals can include cattle, sheep, goats, antelope, and deer. For humans, they get infected when they breathe in spores and eat animals infected by anthrax.
When we are eating the animal, like dry meat, make sure that meat is well dried. Make sure you wash your meat thoroughly before cooking, and it is well cooked. The symptoms are not different from other symptoms that we see in other, bacteria or viral infections. We have cough, flu.
How then do humans know or prevent animals infected by anthrax? I visited one of the slaughters in Benin.
The young one no good. The chairman for this place, he go talk, maybe carry this thing go back.
Now that a close West African country like Ghana has recorded cases of anthrax, I decided to meet with a veterinary doctor.
The Ministry of Agri under veterinary have to carry out intensive meat surveillance, that is meat inspection daily, and also to make sure that the veterinarians at the border ensure that the animal that are coming into the country does not carry the bacterial infection.
Anthrax was first confirmed in northern Ghana, which borders Burkina Faso and Togo. In Benin, Ivie Oyahiri, NTA News.
You should call for a break.
And that's our package. Nationwide continues after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back. On automotive design and development, the federal government's efforts towards poverty alleviation and tackling unemployment, especially among the youth, are gaining more visibility in Ekiti State as the skills of 30 auto technicians have been sharpened on modern automobile maintenance. Olukemi Sani reports that the training held at the National Automotive Design and Development Council, NADDC, in Ado Ekiti.
Through skill development, redefine the nation's automobile industry and promote international best practices in the automotive sector, the federal government, through the National Automotive Design and Development Council, established automotive training centers across the 6 geopolitical zones in the country. 6 weeks after the inauguration of the center in Ado Ekiti, 30 technicians are undergoing training on modern ways of automobile repairs and maintenance.
You're sitting down, just tighten it here, by the time you go in your vices, finish the job.
Thank the federal government also. So as I'm here, I'm appealing to them, the federal government also, to do more of this, so that all the mechanics can have a very great knowledge.
The Director General, National Automotive Design and Development Council, Jelani Aliyu, says the bid to tackle the challenges posed by dearth of modern technical skills is the aim of the training.
It will empower them, it will create more job for them, it will make them more confidence, it will make them to earn more income.
So that they will be out of the main road, taking vices, different vices. But if you have something in your hand that you are doing, it will be okay for you, and that's why we are giving it to them.
We say thank you so much to the federal government of Nigeria, thank you to the NADCCs, thank you to the Federal Ministry of Investment. So this is the first one, and it's going to be the first of many of the trainings.
Over 20,000 persons have so far been trained in the periodical program across the country. In Ado-Ekiti, Olukemi Sani, NTA News.
From Ado-Ekiti, we take you to Enugu, where Enugu State Governor Peter Mbah has urged journalists to desist from amplifying fake news capable of undermining government's efforts at enthroning peace, security and economic growth. Chika Ugu reports that the governor gave the advice while interacting with journalists in the state.
Hell-bent on his vision of growing the state's economy to an enviable height, Governor Peter Mbah noted that to achieve this lofty vision for Enugu State, security of lives and property is paramount. To this end, he called on journalists in the state to partner with the state government to bring to fruition the vision of eradicating poverty, growing the economy through private sector investment, and ensuring peace of residents of the state. This, he said, can be achieved if journalists are free and fair with their reportage, avoid disseminating fake news, and avoid publicizing activities of hoodlums, especially those projecting the unlawful sit-at-home order.
People thrive on this fear that is still in us, and because they've also noticed that once they magnify this through the social media and through the different platforms that they have access to, that it would achieve the intended outcome, they continue to benefit from that fear.
Members of the press asked questions bordering on security issues and the state government's stand and efforts to forestall insecurity. Reacting to the questions, Governor Peter Mbah, without missing words, assured them that the state government has put various measures in place and is working in tandem with security agents to sustain and foster peace as well as security in the state. In Enugu, Chika Ugu, NTA News.
Plans are underway to give the old Residency Museum a facelift with the intention to improve its aesthetics, thereby boosting the historical archive of Nigeria and enhance the tourism status of Cross River State. The state governor, Senator Basi Otu, revealed this while inspecting the national monument. Justina Etum reports.
Old Residency Museum, housing documents and artifacts that tells the story of transatlantic slave trade, colonialism and Britain's Industrial Revolution, is on the brink of losing all it stands for, unless a drastic step is taken to salvage it. Worried by the poor state of this national monument, which had attracted visitors from far and wide, the Cross River State Governor, Senator Basi Otu, while inspecting the facility, promises to restore its shine.
We want to restore back our history, especially tourist sites like this. People coming here will help add value to our economy. What we have, we present it as this, and what we have here is one of the best.
For the curator, National Museum and Monuments, Calabar, the Old Residency Museum is a treasure at any time that shouldn't be neglected.
We have our own culture, we have our own history. So the museum is here to showcase the history and the culture outside the world.
Since Cross River State prides itself as a tourist destination, it is believed that reviving this monument will boost this status as well as improve the state's revenue base. In Calabar, Justina Etam, NTA News.
And looking at health now, the need for oncologists to be committed, leverage on their expertise, resources and experience to combat cancer burden in the country came up strongly at an oncology stakeholders meeting. The forum is aimed at changing the narrative of cancer prevention, diagnosis and treatment in Nigeria. Basi Taikbang reports that the National Institute for Cancer Research and Treatment, NICRAT, was officially unveiled at the meeting.
Early detection, appropriate diagnosis and treatment can prevent as well as reduce the number of cancer-related deaths in the country. This was the view of the Permanent Secretary, Federal Minister of Health, who was represented. He appreciated the prospects and solutions put forward by the Institute towards reducing the burden of cancer in the country.
And of course, you being experts, as it were, you even do it better and you do it larger. Cancer control and care in Nigeria, we are in for a better time.
Former Minister of Health Isaac Adewale attributed the recent increase in cancer to exposure, risk factor and change in lifestyle, while the Director General of the Institute, Professor Usman Aliyu, stressed the need for collaboration to fight the scourge.
Therefore, elucidating the burden and risk factors of cancers, which help in prevention and early detection, is critical in LMICs to reduce cancer mortality and boost survival rates.
In recognition of the need for a more coordinated and multi-sectoral response to the growing cancer burden in Nigeria. Together, let us make a difference and strive toward a future where cancer is no longer a threat to humanity.
The logo of the National Institute for Cancer Research and Treatment, NICRET, was also unveiled. Basi Taipan, NTA News.
Nigeria's biosafety system is seen by some African countries as an all-encompassing tool in tackling risk associated with the use of biotechnology in the production of genetically modified food and other organisms. Charles Alpha reports that Burkina Faso is the latest African country understudying Nigeria in this regard.
African countries in search of a safe and effective biosystem see the Nigerian experience as a source of inspiration, and its system a veritable tool in guaranteeing a safer environment. From its standard template on mode of biosafety operations to regulating the presence of genetically modified organisms, either in imported or exported products, Nigeria's Biosafety Management Agency is not compromising standard in ensuring research institutes conform with internationally acceptable standards through active communication and legal framework. These have attracted delegation from Burkina Faso, and they are in Nigeria to understudy this system.
We are concerned about the human health, the animal health, plant life, and also the environment. So we're doing it right, that's why they are coming, and we will continue to do it right.
For the Burkina Faso team, a lot of components necessary for operations are lacking in their country, and the team sees Nigeria's case as an eye-opener.
We have learned that if you need to utilize biotechnology, you need to have a strong biosafety system with all the components. So Nigeria is doing very well.
They are at the verge of validating their national communication strategy on genome medicine, and we are here to also put them through.
This study is hoped will further boost the already existing bilateral cooperation between Nigeria and Burkina Faso. Charles Alpha, NTA News.
In a related development, as part of efforts to increase both agricultural yields and farmers' income, Niger State government has flagged off sales and distribution of 60,000 bags of fertilizers and farming inputs for the 2023 wet farming season in Minna, the state capital. The initiative is part of 120,000 bags of fertilizer the state government intends to provide at a subsidized rate to encourage farming. Mukhtar Wowo reports.
Goal of the sales and distribution of fertilizers and other farm imports is to drive home the state government's policy of cultivating 100 hectares of land under the 1-for-1 program, which is aimed at encouraging farmers and civil servants to embrace farming to ensure food sufficiency. Under the initiative, the Governor Mohammed Umar Bago-led administration has also set machinery in motion to procure 300 tractors, 10 each across the 25 local government areas of the state, to be complemented by 300 pumping machines to increase agricultural yields.
Only 10 bags can be sold to an individual. His bank details, his VPN, everything will be taken into consideration. Then we have invited the FCC, ICPC, and also the police to make sure that this is done rightly.
Today, Excellency, you have approved 100 trucks of 600 bags of fertilizer. When I went to His Excellency, he graciously approved 20% subsidy.
I will add this committee to make sure the fair goal and make sure the actual input go to the right farmer.
Farmers and other people of vested interest applauded the state government's benevolence on its efforts in transforming the agricultural sector, describing it as timely. The event witnessed the symbolic presentation of fertilizers and other farm inputs to some farmers. Emina Mukhtar, NTA News.
It is said that when a man is blessed, he should worship and glorify God Almighty. This is what the senator representing Delta Central at the upper chamber of the National Assembly, Ede Dafinone, did as he returned honor and praises to his creator at First Baptist Church, O'Hara.
First Baptist Church, Ogahara, Delta State, was agog with worshippers who offered praises and thanksgiving for the man of the moment and senator representing Delta Central, Ede Dafinone. Reverend God's Power Ewe appreciates God for the success achieved in the last national election and urged the serving lawmaker to ensure he holds the path of his late father and immediate past senator, Ovie Omo Agege.
We want to remind you that you are who you are today, not by virtue of any other thing, but by what? The grace.
The senator, who was full of joy, thanked brethren for the spiritual and moral support throughout the process to represent them and promised not to let them down.
I will not leave any of the team that worked with me behind, and also that as we move forward into the next stretch, that I will remember all the people of Delta Central. Again, I emphasize whether they voted for me or not.
The service climaxed with prayers and goodwill messages from constituents for the senator to deliver on his mandate for the benefit of the people and prosperity of Urobo Kingdom.
The Senate President has constituted a 9-member special committees. They are as follows. Committee on Rules and Business to be chaired by Senator Titus Zam, while Senator Sunday Karimu chairs Committee on Ethics and Public Petitions, and Senator Okechukwu Ezia is to serve as chairman. Other committees include that of Public Accounts with Senator Aliu Wadada as chairman. Senator Shehu Umar is chairman, National Security and Intelligence. Meanwhile, Committee on Legislative Compliance is to be headed by Senator Garba Musa, with that of Media and Publicity to be chaired by Senator Adeyemi Aderamodu, while Appropriations Committee chairman is Senator Adeola Olamileko. Next is Sports Update.